Alright, so today we'll be finding solutions of quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. Make sure to take notes and do all the examples, and then do the survey at the end. Here are the steps for finding solutions using the quadratic formula. First, you need to memorize the quadratic formula. This will not be something you'll be allowed to use notes for on your test. Then, you'll need to identify A, B, and C. You've done this before, it's not new. Simplify the discriminant. This is the part under the square root. Then you'll need to simplify the denominator, split it into two problems, and solve. And make sure you write your answers as a point or points. These could be whole numbers, decimals, or fractions. So what is the quadratic formula? Well, here it is. X equals opposite of b. We say opposite because it changes the sign of whatever our b value is. So if our b value was negative, it becomes positive, and if it was positive, it becomes negative. So the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now this b squared minus 4ac, that's the discriminant. Please write that in your notes, that b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. Now, here are some thoughts about identifying a, b, and c. We've done this before. A is always next to x squared, b is always next to the x, and c is always the number off by itself. So here's example 1. Y equals 3x squared minus 7x plus 2. A is the 3, b is the negative 7, and c is 2, because 3 is next to x squared, negative 7 is next to the x, and c is the number by itself, 2. Here's another example. This time we have y equals negative x squared plus 5. Well, a is negative 1. B, we don't have a number next to just an x, so it's 0. And c is 5. For our third example, we have y equals 4x plus 9x squared plus 1. Don't be fooled. A here is 9. It's next to the x squared. B is 4 because it's next to the x, and c is off by itself. It's 1. So let's use these examples now to solve. So given your first example, we've already identified a, b, and c. We just have to plug it into our formula. When we plug it in, except for plugging in that first number, we're going to use parentheses. So we're going to do the opposite of b here. So that's where negative 7 becomes positive 7, plus or minus the square root of parentheses, negative 7, that's our b value, squared, that squared is always on the outside of the parentheses, minus 4 times a times c, so a is 3, c is 2, all divided by 2 times a. So the next step was to simplify the discriminant and the denominator. So in my calculator, I just put negative 7 parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses 3 parentheses 2. I don't put the square root in. So when I do that, I get 25. So now I have 7 plus or minus the square root of 25. Simplifying the discriminant, 2 times 3 is just 6. So now I've simplified this problem immensely. Now we split it into two separate problems. This plus or minus, I'm going to make one a plus and one a minus. Then, when I put this into my calculator, I'm going to put 7 plus the square root of 25. Then I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to hit divided by 6. Then I'm going to hit and then I'm going to do 7 minus the square root of 25, hit enter, and divide that by 6. When you do, you'll get x equals 2 and x equals 0.33333. Rounding to 2 decimals is plenty for us. So we get the points 2, 0, and 0.330. At this point, please draw a triangle on the center of your page. Here's the second example. Again, we've already been given a, b, and c, so I plug that into my formula, being very careful with my signs. Then I simplify the discriminant, so I'm going to put parentheses 0, parentheses squared minus 4, parentheses negative 1, parentheses 5, parentheses into my calculator. No square roots yet. And when I do that, I get 20. And simplify the denominator, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now I split it into two problems by breaking this plus or minus into a plus and a minus. I put the top, the numerator, into my calculator, hit enter, divide by the denominator for both problems, and I get negative 2.24 and 2.24. Sometimes they're the same with opposite signs, but not always. So then we write them as a point, making sure our y value is 0. Now we've got one more example. So again, we're going to plug into our formula, making sure we change the sign of b, and we put b squared minus 4ac in. Make sure you put the right values in for the correct variables. Then we're going to simplify the discriminant, just the piece under the square root. Now, when you do that, this time you get a negative 20. And if you put the square root of a negative number into your calculator, it will give you an error. That's because this time we have imaginary roots. So anytime this happens, anytime you get the square root of a negative number, you can just write imaginary next to it, and that problem is done. So here are some things to remember. Often you'll get multiple answers. If you try to take the square root of a negative number, your solutions are imaginary. You need to make sure you watch your signs and make sure you memorize the quadratic formula. Here are the survey questions if you can't see them on your computer.